So this is just kind of an announcement before the video. I was thinking about what I wanted to do, what I wanted to accomplish with these Chris Chan videos. And I decided that I don't want to just read quickie pages or regurgitate information that you can already find in other videos with vastly superior editing and time and production put into them than mine. I wanted to offer something a little bit unique, and what I think that I can offer that's unique is my own perspective, and I wanted to do something a little bit different with that perspective. I want to try to ask and answer questions about whatever Chris Chan topic I'm covering in this video and videos that will come after this. I want to present certain information that you may not have known, or information that has been covered and, known about for a long time, but maybe in a different light with a new perspective. And I want to do this in a new and kind of thought-provoking format. I want to try to make the audience, make myself kind of think about these topics and these people that were involved in Chris Chan's life, because Chris Chan is a real person. He isn't just like a character. His actions aren't two-dimensional, they're three-dimensional, maybe even four-dimensional. Everything interlocks, and I think it's very interesting to look at everything in this person's life as an interlocking puzzle, basically. And that's what I kind of want to do with these Chris Chan videos moving forward, especially when talking about certain people or certain sagas. When talking about fucking, DJ Jams to Sonichu, I'll just write a script and be comical, but basically just regurgitate the quickie information, because there's nothing I can add to DJ Jams to Sonichu. It's just funny to talk about. But with the longer, more interesting videos about the different sagas, I really want to put research in and be, I don't want to sound pretentious and say that I'm being thought-provoking or that Chris Chan is thought-provoking, but I at least want to be interesting, and I don't want to just read the quickie, because anyone can read the quickie. The quickie is an excellent resource, and it has much more information than I have the ability to copy, so you might as well just read it anyway. But I wanna try to accomplish something a little bit different. So with that out of the way, let's move on to the video. Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Angus Kills the Mood. I know I said that I would do a non-Chris Chan video before this, but research and effort that's being put into that video is taking a lot longer. There's a lot of stuff, especially a lot of recent stuff that I wanted to collect and cover and make sure that I talk about before I put that video out, so I promise that will be the next video, and I'll tell you what that is at the end of this video in case you're interested. But today what I'm going to be exploring is the Megan Saga. This is arguably the first saga of importance, a major chain of event in Chris's life that will be remembered by Christorians basically until people stop talking about Chris Chan. In this video I'm going to try to cover who Megan is, kind of a brief cover of the content of their interactions. That isn't really going to be the main point of this video. I'm going to try to explore why I think the Megan saga is important, why I think Megan is an important character in Chris's life. I'll try to cover the legacy of the Megan saga, And at the end, I'll try to talk about some interesting theories regarding Megan and what implications they could have on Chris and on Christery. So, Megan Schroeder was born July 23rd, 1986, and was a former gal pal of Chris, arguably one of his only real friends. Chris met Megan at a local gaming store known as the Game Place in 2004, and Megan was sort of an odd character, with her tomboyish attitude and interest in nerdy activities. Her interests had already somewhat overlapped with Chris, and from what we know, this is kind of the original basis of their relationship and their interaction. Chris would primarily and frequently communicate with Megan over email about until 2008, mid-2008, when she completely cut off ties with him and moved away, for reasons we will cover later in the video, I promise. Chris would include Megan in his comics as a would-be love interest for himself, also as in the form of Sailor Megtoon. I'm not an expert in the actual story of Sonichu, so I don't know if Megan and Sailor Megtoon are two different characters. If I ever talk about the Sonichu comics, I'll definitely go over that. The end of Megan's interaction with Chris was really kind of like a series of events that culminated in Megan's discovery of the She Came for Quick pic, and she found it on Encyclopedia Dramatica, and I would like to show you this image because I think torturing people with awful cringe is fun, but I don't think YouTube would like that. In fact, I know YouTube wouldn't like that. I know way too much about YouTube's terms of service and their rules. But needless to say, I think you can imagine that the contents of this image are quite offensive just by the title of the image and the fact that I can't show it to you. What we know about the Megan saga is mostly revealed through emails dating as far back as 2005. These early emails show us their extent of the relationship and what it mostly consisted of. The earliest email that's archived on the Quickie is just Megan asking Chris to buy an episode of the TV show Tintin on eBay, which Chris happily does. This theme of Megan asking Chris to buy her stuff on eBay will be kind of a constant theme throughout their entire relationship. He will buy her all sorts of things, toys, movies, anime shit, World War II memorabilia even, which is kind of weird. In the early emails, Chris tries to reach out to Megan and make attempts to meet up with her and kind of closen their relationship. And Megan always kind of turns him down, usually pretty politely. You know, oh, I'm busy, oh, I can't do that, oh, I don't feel comfortable doing that. Megan refuses to give Chris her phone number, saying, "It's certainly nothing directed at you, but I just don't enjoy talking on the phone either." Now, I don't really know of any odd human aversion to speaking on the phone with someone, so it's fair to assume that, you know, she's just bullshitting him. Which is understandable. I don't really think I would want to talk to Chris on the phone, hear his voice any more than I already do. However, later in the same email, she does say that she is willing to meet him at a local park. Many of their emails through 2006 continue with themes of eBay, Chris trying to meet up, Megan politely rejecting him, and so on and so forth. There is a particularly odd email dated June 5th, 2006, where Megan is responding to 42 pictures Chris sent her. We don't have the pictures, or at least I couldn't find the pictures that Chris sent her, but we kind of get a good idea of what they are just based on Megan's response. And the language used in this email kind of subtly shows the dynamic between the two. Megan's responses were short and lacking in any of major substance and to the point, kind of like the way you would react when your little cousin shows you their Minecraft world. Oh, wow. Wow, you have a diamond sword? That's pretty neat. That kind of bullshit. In fact, most of the time we see Megan respond to Chris in a context that isn't leave me alone or please buy me things. Her tone is quite similar, uninterested and kind of shallow. While it is important to note that this email was sent shortly after midnight and she could have just been tired, the the pretty major possibility that she truly was just responding to him out of obligation or some sort of perceived obligation, it's a pretty major possibility, and I would say a pretty likely one. This will be a theme that we will see anytime the two aren't communicating over Chris's inappropriate behavior or eBay transactions. Near the end of 2006, we can see Megan get increasingly unhappy with Chris's behavior towards her. Trying to kiss her, making inappropriate comments, trying to hug her, put his arm around her shoulder, that kind of stuff. In the summer of 2007, nearly a year later, Megan begins contacting Chris more infrequently and begins either ignoring his emails or just not responding to them. During this time, Chris enters a contest to win a prize trip to Seattle for two, and I think a PSP was also on the line. Chris enters the contest in an attempt to win Megan's affection, and he believes that they will become romantically involved during the trip. Chris then loses the contest to Adam Stackhouse, which is a short, funny saga that I might cover at some point, but it doesn't really have any bearing on much else. And Chris vents his frustration to Megan in an email, and Megan kind of flips her shit because, like, I would too. I don't want some weirdo trying to, like, take me to Seattle. Specifically, she says, and I just want to say that your behavior has irritated me for the last time. First, I'll start off with saying I'm glad you didn't win the contest, because I have no interest in going on a trip alone with someone who can't keep his hands off me. I'm not your girlfriend, and I will never be. When I say don't touch me, that means don't touch me. While what may seem friendly to you is sexual harassment to me. You whine that you're just being friendly, but you obviously have no consideration for my feeling. The way you went on Nina because she patted me on the head was very rude and uncalled for. Just because someone has made physical contact with me doesn't give you the authority to do so. Remember, I have the right to decide who comes near me. A very typical response from someone who really doesn't want a weirdo to touch them. I would say a very justified response. Chris continues to email Megan, kind of begging her at this point to remain in contact with him. Megan, either out of a sense of obligation, actual friendship, or just she still wants him to buy him things, does, but doesn't really communicate with him very often. And she basically, during this time, restates that she just wants to be friends and she doesn't want to be romantically involved with Chris, usually in nicer terms than what I just read, at least for now. On March 4th, 2008, Megan, via email, tells Chris that she does not want to be featured on his Sonichu website or in any of his comics, and asks Chris to take any reference to her down. Unfortunately, in the following week, she finds out that Chris did the exact atomic fucking opposite. You see, in the background of Chris and Megan communicating, Chris was having a feud with his Encyclopedia Dramatica page. And people were posting inappropriate fan art, drawing his female characters with huge dicks and stuff. And Chris, in his wonderfully autistic mind, thinks that the best way he can counter this tasteless, evil, pornographic fan art is with his own, more tasteful pornographic fan art, which is such an oxymoron. Oh my goodness. And as a result, the infamous She Came for Quick Pick was created and uploaded to the Encyclopedia Dramatica page. From what I have found, and from what the quickie says, 5 months before Megan asks Chris to stop referencing her in his comics. And she finds out about this, like 6 months, 5 months after he posted the image in November of 2007. She finds out about it in March of 2008, right after she had said, "Stop talking about me. I don't like the way you're depicting me." And needless to say, she was quite fucking livid. Now, the initial troll reaction to the She Came for Quick Pick was interesting, because the trolls thought that the image depicted Chris having, how do I say this without saying it? Inappropriate, outer course with his imaginary sister. See, in Chris's comics, there's a character called Crystal, which I think is Chris's imaginary sister. So, while trolls thought that the She Came for Quick Pick was depicting Chris's imaginary sister, and they thought this because of the awful caption Chris left on it, "Your sister has come for me." There is evidence to suggest that the picture was originally created and meant for this guy, and I'm pretty sure you can see my mouse. The man, the creature standing next to Megan there, Megan's brother. And while there isn't real good, like, solid evidence for this, the picture definitely depicts Megan. Chris has admitted that, and that is Megan's brother. So the caption, "Your sister has come to me," would make a lot more sense if the picture was directed at Megan's brother, John. So that's kind of the actual origin story behind the She Came for Quick Pick, at least what I've put together, and I'm pretty sure that that is the popular opinion. If there is actual evidence for Chris directly creating it and trying to target it at John, I'll include it when I'm editing this video, but as of this point, I haven't found anything to suggest that he directly targeted it at him. As a result of Megan discovering that She Came for Quick Pick, there was a very angry but also very interesting set of emails between the two of them, and it really highlights Chris's misunderstanding of very important social cues, his misunderstanding of how to apologize correctly, and his unwillingness to learn from the mistakes of his past. And I just kind of want to scroll through and highlight those certain things to present those to you guys because I think they're very interesting. This is kind of an unscripted bit that I wanted to add in the video because I didn't write it into my script because I'm a dummy-dumb that doesn't think in advance. I kind of have an idea of where these bits are, but you're just gonna have to hang with me. So here's the first major thing. In this email here, Megan is saying that she doesn't know what to think of the image, and she is upset and scared, and she just wants Chris to leave her alone. And it's laid out very straightforward, very honestly, and in my opinion, pretty understandably. Chris doesn't see it that way, and he does the most autistic thing ever. And Chris, he takes this email of Megan saying she doesn't know what to think of the image and thinks that she means that she doesn't understand what the image is portraying. Now, obviously, I can't show you the image, but Chris is giving Megan a hand job in the image. I hate saying that. It hurts me. I understand. You may not have had much exposure to sexual images as I have. And that right there, that sentence highlights one of the greatest issues with Chris, is that he doesn't know how to read people. And he has a hard enough time reading people in real life. And, you know, for any person reading people and trying to figure out what they mean over the internet is a lot harder. And it's extremely hard for Chris. And then he goes on and he talks about the fucking stupid 40-year-old virgin movie, goddamn. So Chris removes the original image and he puts up a doctored version of the image where it's just a close-up of Chris actually performing the sexual act. And Chris thinks, oh, this is fine. I've concealed her identity. And oh my god, this sentence right here in blue that I'm gonna read out loud, and I'm gonna hate myself for doing it. I've managed to have the drawing removed and replaced it with a different yet similar image for a while, but they undid a bit of my handiwork. Oh my god, I hope that's just a coincidence, because that's awful. Oh no. And of course Megan is completely flabbergasted, completely fucking floored. Like, she says it right here. Why didn't you just completely remove it? And this again showcases Chris's inability to apologize correctly. And I think it's fair to say that that is definitely a result of his autism. Here's Chris saying that if he didn't release his emotions by drawing the pornographic images, that he might become a abusive maniac. And of course that's just him trying to save face because he's really autistic. And that's just the truth. I'm not even trying to be funny. And he does it again, but this time he basically doubles down on his justification for putting it up. He says, "I'm really sorry for uploading the drawing." He says it right there. Right there. But then he says, "Yet I do not regret the drawing, because if I hadn't released my frustrations in a creative sense, I might have done something really dumb and stupid." And of course, Megan responds to this. I don't even know why Megan is still responding, and this is one of the reasons why I don't think Megan was a malicious actor, and I think she was trying to be genuine to Chris and is legitimately angry. But she responds to him, "What the fuck does that mean?" I'm paraphrasing. She doesn't actually say that. But like, what does preventing you from, or how does drawing that prevent you from doing something stupid? And what does that mean? What is doing something stupid raping me? Like, Chris, that's awful, and I don't want to talk to you anymore. And yeah, the final email is basically what I just said. And that's the end. That's the end of Megan talking to Chris. And I think that that's a justified reason to end any interaction with someone. And I think Chris should kind of be grateful in a sense that Megan even interacted with him post discovering the image, and she didn't just cut it off right there. The Megan saga proves a few things about Chris's character and the extent of his autism. While blaming Chris's autism for things that he does really isn't popular, I think, especially in the case of the Megan saga, it can be somewhat justified. Because Megan was a real person. These weren't like fake scenarios presented by trolls. And a lot of the problems in the Megan saga were caused by Chris's lack of social skills and lack of understanding of how to have real friends due to his autism. At least that's the way I see it. Megan was really Chris's only friend post-high school, and his interactions with her show how socially inept he was and still is. It's important to understand that, again, Megan wasn't a troll, and while her motivations aren't completely known, malice wasn't one of them. This is one situation where Chris, again, isn't being trolled. Megan wasn't trying to present Chris with fake situations. He wasn't trying to force him to react to something. Megan was a real person who Chris kind of fucked up. We learn that Chris is naturally obsessive, he doesn't understand social cues, and he is afraid of losing things, and he doesn't really comprehend consequences. The legacy of Megan in Christory is very interesting. She's a very important person for Christorians to look at and study. Not study, that makes it sound so like official. To look at and theorize basically Chris's actual nature and not his nature under manipulation. However, Megan's impact on Chris's actual life is somewhat limited, I would say. Chris doesn't understand consequences. He doesn't really learn from his actions very well. So you'll see a lot of the social ineptness present in the Megan saga. You'll see that throughout the rest of his life, continuing until this very day. The Megan saga did introduce some very important things to Chris, such as My Little Pony, which he won't really explore super far into until much later in his life, about a decade after the end of the Megan saga. He also is introduced to a wider variety of anime via Megan. We are pretty sure Chris was already kind of a fan of anime, but especially Chris's introduction to Sailor Moon via Megan was very impactful on Chris, and he references it a lot in his comics, and it probably introduced him to other animes as well. Now, Chris will dispute this. He has recently disputed this via the Magichan Twitter, and I don't believe Chris as Magichan disputing the fact that Megan introduced Chris to all this stuff, and I don't believe it for a number of reasons, but again, we're not talking about the Magichan, we're talking about Megan, the Megan. Another kind of impact Megan left with Chris is the kind of impact she had on Bob and Barb. We can assume that Bob and Barb were not big fans of Megan, and were not big fans of Megan's exit from Chris's life. We know that Bob and Barb saw Megan and blamed Megan for a lot of the problems in Chris's life, and they viewed her as the first troll and kind of this weird mastermind behind all the trolling efforts. And they passed this theory on to Chris, who would adopt it and blame Megan a lot of the time for the trolls' actions against him. And he has later admitted that that is incorrect, and he is sorry for thinking that Megan did that, but he did hold that opinion for a long time. As kind of an ending to this video, I want to talk about some interesting theories behind Megan Schroeder, her relationship with Chris, her own personality, and kind of the implications they have on the whole saga. The most damning of these theories is that Megan was only friends with Chris because he would buy her things. And this theory has some legs to stand on. Chris did spend a lot of money, his parents' money of course, he doesn't have any money, on toys and shit for Megan. And it's very likely that Chris did this because he thought that doing it would make Megan like him more and improve his chances of dating her. However, this theory does have some shortcomings. When you read Megan's emails to Chris, she says that she does pay Chris back with cash or other like gifts that she has. You can still argue that she exploited Chris, but I can't really see malice or ill will being a factor in their relationship. She talks to Chris, although in a shallow, disinterested manner. It's not abusive, and she does try to maintain the fact that they are friends, and she does try to offer him some advice. Advice that you wouldn't get from somebody who's just trying to exploit you for eBay money. So I personally am not a subscriber to that theory. What I am a subscriber to is the theory that Megan was kind of a Veraboo. And if you don't know what a Veraboo is, a Veraboo is somebody who attaches themselves to the culture of the German Wehrmacht during World War II, as a weeaboo would attach themselves to anime and Japanese culture, which is kind of an oddity. Chris bought her a lot of German World War II pictures and memorabilia, and it was kind of weird. Chris addresses Megan as like a German soldier at some point in one of the emails. If I can find it, I'll put it up on the screen. And Megan kind of like defends her interest in these things. I guess in a very in a fine, justifiable way, by saying like, you know, just because I'm German doesn't mean I'm a Nazi, and I can still appreciate their culture. Which is like, yes, you can appreciate German culture without being obsessed with the Wehrmacht. Jesus Christ. Just the idea kind of makes me laugh. This theory is kind of weak for a few reasons. We don't really know if she was a Wehraboo or if she had a Nazi fetish. I did see, oh my goodness, if I can find it, I'll put it up on the screen. But at this point of me recording, I looked and I didn't find it again, which means I'm just stupid, because it definitely exists. But there's a post on the Kiwi Farms saying that Megan was bullied in high school because she had a Nazi fetish. And whether that's, you know, just Kiwi Farms hyperbole or if it actually is true is debatable, but I just think it's funny and kind of an interesting thing about Megan. And that is the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. There is so much information on Megan, pages and pages on the quickie videos and videos that I couldn't even think about covering everything. I hope that this gave you an interesting perspective into one of the first Chris Chan sagas. The next non-Chris Chan video, I promise, will come out within the next 2 weeks, and it will be on the absolute shit show, poorly maintained, skaven infested sewer that is the Smash Bros community. And that should be a very interesting video. Keep your eyes out for it. I hope your mood is dead now and that you bury your head in the sands like an emu. And goodbye.